Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Celtic Down Under weekend review. My name is Anthony McGuire, and as always, I'm joined by Paul Massey as we discuss Rangers 1, Celtic 1, the last league Glasgow Derby for the season. Bit of a damp squib. We were obviously both at Johnny Fox's, the Perth Celtic Supporters Club, watching the game last night, so good atmosphere in the club. Just be nice to actually see Celtic win a game. But anyway, we didn't lose. And we didn't concede a goal in the first 5 minutes. So, that always, made for a better viewing experience. So we'll get into that and obviously talk about the game and give our thoughts on where it went well and where it maybe didn't quite go so well. Paul, how was your weekend, mate, before we get into the game?
Well, weekend's pretty good. We've seen quite a bit of each other this weekend. So we both had Friday off work to take part in I was going to say it's a Texas barbecue class. Not sure how much actual learning we all did. It was eating and drinking on the
brine your food, brine your steaks. That's what
brine your steak, brine your chicken breast. Yeah, I was speaking to Jared, who was there as well, and he bumped into him in the work kitchen. He was like, "I've been teaching my wife about brining all weekend." so yeah, like salt your steaks a day or so, 6 to 12,
up to 24 hours.
It's before you cook them.
I was listening.
Yeah, so yeah, we had some good fun on Friday. Saturday after the fun and games there was a bit of a quiet one, and then obviously we caught up last night for the match, which, as you say, was a bit of a letdown, really. We all, there's no such thing as a dead rubber, right? But we all thought we might get a performance to kind of right some wrongs, but sadly not really. A bit of a kind of half a performance or part of a performance again. I guess, yeah, if you want to look on the bright side of life, we fought back well and didn't lose in the end, but I think it goes down as another one, another missed opportunity to win against them lot. And as much as it doesn't really make a difference in the grand scheme of things, it would have been nice to put one over them on the back of a mixed bag against them.
Part of my thinking is that maybe Brendan Rodgers is playing 4D chess and wants Barry Ferguson to get the job long term. I don't know. Just that was a thought as I was. Because Barry still hasn't written himself off. He still thinks he's in with a shout.
He still thinks he's in with a shout. There was a BBC article saying that he might still be in with a shout. I read earlier.
He's full deluded them all. Like, he seriously thinks that, like, even though that's them now going 7 games at home without a win, which is a club record, dead or alive, whatever iteration of Rangers Football Club you want to choose, that's not really the record on a CV that gets you a permanent gig. But anyway, more on that later. It was great to catch up with you on Friday, Paul, for the barbecue. That was a really good day. Big Don's. If you're ever in Perth, every Saturday he does the American cooking, the Texas barbecue, and it's world class. He cooks more meat than most places do in the rest of the world. He's top 10 for the whole world. So it's just Texas, yeah. It's just exceptional. So if you're into your brisket and your sausages, they do really good smoked snags as well. So if you're ever in Perth, please check them out. No, we're not getting paid for this, but it's just that good. So if you like that sort of stuff, check it out. Saturday, just walking in the city and just try to walk off all the barbecue from the day before and a bit of fresh air, and then finish my garage project. So that's all done. And it was just getting ready for the derby on the Sunday. Nice wee roast dinner beforehand, Paul. I thought it was quite nice. And it was in the game. So I was just
might have been the highlight of it.
First half anyway, it was definitely the highlight. We'll bring in some comments and then we'll get into the game, mate. So bear with me just 2 seconds. So it's 4:20 somewhere. Hail. Also, good afternoon. Hail to you, sir. Lachlan P with his usual stippy and champagne. Yeah, we are still the league champions. That is for sure. Hail, sir. What we got? Patrick Brewer, hell. Kaiser, Euro Legends. Yeah, how you doing, mate? Good to have you on boards. Oh, my issues out of the things already, so we might use this as a jumping off point when we start talking about the actual game. In terms of attacking contributions, Celtic 1.9 goals to Rangers 1.5. So on a perfect day, 2-1 win was possible. Yes, we'll talk about Adam Ida and his missed opportunities, both setting goals up and his golden chance to score in the first half. And then also Daz Maeda right at the end, like literally last kick of the ball, could have either scored himself or put Kenny in to be a hero, but not to be. Anyway, what else we got? Oh, there's lots of chat. We'll pick through that in a bit, Paul. Let's start. Oh, I nearly knocked my laptop off its perch. That's not great. So let's start with the lineup, because obviously in the lead up we caught wind that we obviously knew Jota was out. We knew AJ was out. It was some sort of hip condition that he's just managing, and obviously the main game left is obviously against Aberdeen at Hampden in a few weeks' time. But obviously the shock going in was that Kuhn, with his knee, hadn't trained and was unavailable, so that kind of left us a bit stretched on the wide areas. So that left us with Forrest out wide, with then sort of pushing Maeda out to the other wing, who, as we also found out, had been in Japan for most of the week. So again, you have to question the jet lag and the travel there. I've had Ida up front, and then the usual midfield three, and then Ralston with a rare start at right back, and Greg Taylor preferred, along with Scales and Carter Vickers with Sinisalo and goals. So what were you thinking leading into this one, Paul? Because we didn't have our usual hour of misery. We cut it down to 30 minutes this week, that long hour before the game kicks off. So we only had 30 minutes to ponder it. What were you thinking?
Sometimes it's 90 minutes, depending on how early we get there and want to pick our best spot. So, yeah, we took a calculated gamble on the early kickoff and the fact that the season was pretty much done, and it being a Sunday night, we might not have quite as full a house in the Perth CSC as is usually the case, and was kind of pretty much vindicated. And that's still a big turnout, but yeah, it was a little less busy than normal, so we were able to leave it a little later for getting in. But yeah, that really the only surprise, as you say, was Kuhn not making it. And Rodgers had sort of alluded to that in his pre-match press conference that there were some injuries being managed, but he expected them both him and I think he's mentioned Maeda might have been carrying something as well, but he expected them both to play. Obviously, Kuhn wasn't risked, which I think is probably the right decision. We will almost certainly go back to the market to buy a winger in the summer, given that Jota could be out for as long as 9 months. So you don't want to risk that position even further, as you say, with a treble on the line and a cup final to come. So, I think that's the right decision to leave him out and manage that injury. You look at the team and you still think there's, it's strong enough to go. Taylor and Scales have sort of made the positions their own in recent weeks, and I think they were both justified. I think most people expected them to play usual midfield. And since Jota's injury, it was always going to be Maeda reverting to the wing and Ida playing through the middle. And obviously Forrest has been getting some game time and looking pretty sharp. So you still felt there was more than enough there to get the job done. Obviously it was clear, and I think there's a comment there from Franny McEwen around, you can tell that Maeda had done a lot of traveling. He's, and you can tell when he comes back from Japan that he's not quite at his usual. Yeah, you can tell when he's jet lagged, very heavy in the legs. Fully flying Maeda would have won that for us yesterday. I think it's a fair point. He just looked a yard or two off it, even in the early part of the first half. He wasn't terrorizing Taverner like he usually does. In fact, Tavernier got the better of him for the majority of the match. I think the only time he didn't really get the better of him was the goal, the equaliser. And obviously, to some part, he got away from him for the chance right at the death, but he did get back, and it was him that ended up clearing it once it broke off the keeper. So, in hindsight, you might have gone, well, if he's struggling a bit, then you throw Yang in. But I think having lost Jota, having lost Kuhn, you probably just ask advise him to go to the well again, and on another day, maybe that chance at the death does go in, and suddenly you're vindicated on that decision.
But on another day, if you had the depth, you wouldn't have to play him. You'd have him on the bench. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if Jota and Troon were available, then you've still got winners. But it just, as it's happened to us this season, when we have had injuries, and it hasn't happened obviously too often, but when it has happened, it's always been same players, like same positions, left wing, right wing, central defensive midfielder, just Talmac and Bernardo were both out at the same time. And we had centre halves at the start of this season was an issue. So we just seem to have this horrible knack of getting injuries in the same positions at the same time, which is a shame. But obviously it's something that Brendan Rodgers will hopefully want to correct. And I did star a comment here. It was actually from Franny as well. Here it is. Send a message to the board that we still need the squad to be stronger, because I think looking at that bench, you're sort of saying, well, Bernardo can come on, Luke McCowan can come on, to a lesser extent, Yang can come on, and that was pretty much it. Like, there wasn't really much there that could potentially change the game, really. I mean, when I say, I'm not saying that Kenny or Yang can't change the game. All I'm saying is, going off past performances, the likelihood of them changing the game at Ibrox if we needed a goal or whatever was probably unlikely. I mean, it's not to say it couldn't happen, but if you're playing the percentages, you're sort of thinking, well, no, like, it's sort of, we're not strengthening the team, or that it's not keeping that same equivalence to what we were starting with. And you knew James Forrest wasn't there the last 90 minutes. I mean, that was a given. Like, and it's no slight to James Forrest. I thought he had a decent game, but it's just, he's never done the last 90 minutes at his age, particularly in that fixture. So you knew Yang was ready to come on for him at some point anyway. And then so that only really leaves you with McCowan and Bernardo as your other sort of real options to change the game. So it's just, it's just frustrating, because every time we've come up against that lot, we've always had key players missing. So the last time McGregor was missing, and he was like a hole in the head for the team. And then the time before that, we had players missing. We haven't had the full lineup against them, I think, all season. There's always been someone missing. Like Carter Vickers was missing for one of them as well. So it's just frustrating. But again, missed opportunity in terms of beating them. But like I say, at least we didn't lose, and they've got something to sort of hang their shitty little hats on. Paul, early chance falls to Rangers. I think this was the best chance of the game for either team. Free header. Stales try to track Balogun. I think Balogun, for some reason, he seems to lift his game against us. Like, he's definitely one of those players that seems to always play quite well against us. And he he gets up, he loses Stales. I think Stales collides with John Suter, so he sort of gets impeded. So whether I don't know if they've been enough to pull it back in a VAR situation, but he gets a free header and he should burst the net. I mean, it's like, defenders should be storing those sort of chances, but thankfully he hit it wide and over the bar. And a bit of a let-off, really, but that was probably the warning sign for Celtic and for us in the club, was that our biggest threat from them was going to be set pieces and in and around the box, because when you start watching them try to play out, play around, a lot of misplaced passes and a lot of hustle and bustle, but really that was where you sort of felt that we were probably vulnerable. Your thoughts on the early part of the match?
Yeah, they started the stronger, which on the one hand was not a surprise, because that's been kind of the way the games have gone against them, certainly the last two or three. They've come out, try to put us under pressure, and obviously get something to hang on to. Obviously went even better than that in the last game. And yeah, the disappointing thing is, and we've spoken about this a lot in the lead up to these games, is at some point you expect a reaction from Celtic so that we are fast out of the blocks. We go in the front foot, we put them under intense pressure early on. And I feel like that's, if their tactic is to get after us early, well, retaliate first, get into them, like put them under pressure. We've got the ability and the quality to do that. We've done it. We'll do it. We bully every other team in the league. We should be bullying them as well. Like their standard is poor. What they do is they try and physically bully us and bomb, set pieces and deep line crosses into the box, and we sort of invite that pressure. And yeah, early corner. You're right. Balogun should bury it. He's less than 11, 12 yards out when he meets it. He just doesn't head it down. And, basic skills, you're winning a ball, you've got to aim it, head it down. Scales actually loses him from the get-go. So he's not close enough in the first place. He's not properly marking. And by the time he realizes that Balogun's gone, there's too many players for him to run and follow that run. So Balogun runs and loops on the outside of the crowd scene, and Scales quickly has to readjust and go, I'm going to have to go the other side. So then he's trying to come through traffic, and the Balogun's already got the run on him. He's trying to come through traffic, and yeah, you're right. Then as he's trying to get across and make the jump to get up, he just gets blocked off by Suter, but Suter only really just stands his ground. Scales is coming through traffic to try and get to him because Balogun got the run on him and got the better angled run from sort of the outside in. So he's all over the place, and he's fighting a losing battle at that point, and then it's a completely free header. And that's supposed to be one of Scales. It is one of Scales's positives. Probably the best header we've got of the ball usually. Although CCV had an excellent game in the air, in both boxes. He was unlucky not to score. He heads that either side of the keeper. He probably scores it straight down the middle. I had a brilliant defensive header, kind of under pressure, earlier in the first. Well, not as early as this chance we're talking about, but yeah, he defended the box well. But yeah, Scales, that should be his bread and butter. Is facing up to their set pieces and their main head and attacking threats. And he just got kind of caught short a little bit, maybe a bit early, but yeah, I've been pretty impressed with Scales both defensively and his distribution in recent games since he came back in the team. But he let himself down a bit on the day, with more than just this as an error. And obviously we'll get to the goal in a bit, but I've been quite happy with him as sort of filling in. But if he can keep Trusty out of the team, and Trusty, is only in for set games, and there is a bit of a horses for courses things going on with those two, it really smacks of me saying we still need another centre back. Which
we've spent a fair amount of money in that position.
If you look at how much we spent with, Mike Naroshki, Lagerbielka, Trusty, and obviously, Scales came back from the cold. No one's made the position their own. I'm not necessarily completely writing off Trusty because
maybe Stephen Welsh is the answer.
Well, apparently he's a good loan period at Mechelen.
Played every week.
I don't know. I still think we're probably going to have to go back to the market and find somebody else, which is a worry. As you say, we've signed 3 or 4. We've had some on the books. But yeah, no one's really sort of put their hand up and sort of grabbed a spot. Obviously, CCV has had his injury problems over the last few years, so there's no guarantee that he plays every match. So you're already on a bit of rotation. But yeah, not great. And then we sort of, after that that gives them, they didn't score, they probably should have, but they get a bit of confidence from that. And we give away a few daft set pieces, throw-ins, deep line free kicks.
Well, the free kick that they got chalked off, that was a stupid foul from Taylor. They didn't need to foul him. He dived in. That was a daft foul, because when that went in, the first thing I thought was we shouldn't have conceded that free kick in the first place, and we did. And then thankfully, Raskin just decided to run half a yard offside. So there's a few comments here saying, how did he win ahead? If you're half a yard ahead of your runner, then anything's really possible. I mean, he's offside, so I mean you can't. yeah, it's troubling that he still gets on the end of it, and we should be defending it better. But at least we held our line, and he was offside. So I mean, great to say the defense has probably done something right.
The line is really disciplined. They've held that brilliantly. The line was high and good most of you're pretty much all there that you would. So as much as it looks like we haven't done as well as we could have from set pieces, there's clearly been work on the training field on it, because that line was high. It was held well. There were actually, I think we spoke about in the pub, there were about 4 of them in an offside position, including Raskin. Like, obviously some of them weren't really attacking the ball. Some of them weren't, interfering.
And as much as I said at the start of the show that like that's where I thought they were maybe going to get is, I think part of that is the Celtic supporter mentality that we always feel that we're a bit shaky at set pieces, and Rangers seem to have this towering dominance over us when it comes to set pieces. But yeah, I guess historically, yeah, probably they have scored more goals from sort of, not an open play, but from those plays. But I think sometimes we make it worse than what it actually is. Like, because there wasn't really that many. They didn't really have that many chances. They had, obviously that goal was chalked off, the one we Balogun right at the start. But after that, it was just, I thought we defended. Stales got his head on a lot. Carter Vickers cleared well. The defense put their bodies on the line. Like there was, and I thought, probably may as well mention it now, I thought Sinisalo had an excellent game. I thought he was really, really good. Particularly, I can't remember whether this was before or after the goal, but obviously the deflected shot that sort of came off Carter Vickers' foot. I mean, he's backtracking in that and managed to tip that off over the bar from Czerny. That was a really good save.
It's a good save to his left, right on right on the floor.
There was another header. Yeah.
John Suter header from another set piece. I think it's a corner, but that one's right in the corner and right on the floor. So he's got
a good reach on him. He's obviously a tall guy, but like he seems to have a really good reach on him. And I just think that as much as these last so many weeks, like we're picking fault here, there, and whatever. Like I think one of the bright spots out of this section of the season has been him, because he's had to step in. The lead wasn't won when he stepped in. Still had a cup semi-final to win. Obviously, maybe he does get the gloves for the rest of the season. Like as a reward for the fact that he's done a good job. But I just think that's probably been a big upshot, is that our keeper in waiting, when Schmeichel decides that he's had enough, I'm hoping that, he basically steps into the number one role, because it looks like he's got the ability to do it. I still think he could probably do a bit better with his distribution. I think they probably work on that a little bit. But I just think that he didn't look overawed with that situation yesterday. So that, he got the customary whiskey bottle thrown at his head. And that, didn't sort of start a little more, whatever. But, again, Rangers Football Club have been quite vocal in putting a statement out condemning that and condemning the banner, which we couldn't quite work out who it was holding the gun, Paul, but apparently that's a young Graham Souness.
That was my best guess, was a young Graham Souness. I didn't really get the reference. Obviously, we've since seen the photo that it's based on. The quote is obviously related to Star Wars Day, but as I said, why would you want to line yourself with the Sith? Like, they are the bad guys, right? So
we made the joke last night. It's like the peep show with the David Thingy going, "Are we the baddies?" It's like,
are we the baddies of the Nazi outfits? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But obviously there's the rebels, and but it's easy to use the rebel scum thing. But they're the heroes of the Star Wars saga. They're absolute idiots. Absolute.
But that's the thing. It's all mixed messages. None of it makes sense. It's not funny. It's not like satirical. It's just rubbish. And it's like, that's the best they could come up with. Like, it's like, oh. And
it doesn't even joined up. Like, they use a mod symbol behind it just because it's red, white, and blue. Well, the mods, don't stand for what they stand for. And then, as soon as from a photo from the, earlier mid-80s, what relevance has that got other than you pointing a gun at the Celtic support? It'd be nice to see, it'd be interesting to see how much press that gets this week.
Oh, I'll be surprised if it gets much at all. To be honest, I think it's very been swept under the rug.
I'm being facetious, but on the back of a week where Kneecap have been hammered through the press for probably even less inflammatory stuff than that, and they've been dragged through it, all through it in every part of the world in the media. How much will this get? Almost nothing. You're spot on. So yeah, it was one of those. I think if you squinted, you thought, oh, it could be a young Graham Souness. It turns out that who it was. Yeah, it's up there with their usual efforts. Bloody atrocious.
Yes, I'm sure the usual pearl clutching right wing mob won't bat an eyelid with that, and I'm sure the bros at the SFA will just, like I said, sweep, and just move on. But yeah, like I said, it's poor effort, and again, for a club that's supposed to be getting taken over by the 49ers, which are Catholic, interesting decisions ahead there. But all right, enjoy that, lads.
And I think that's what the statement, these hardline statements we've finally seen from them in recent weeks on a couple of different issues. It's 100% because they're trying to make sure that deal doesn't go sideways. But yeah, like there's a whole lot more pain for them to come and the new owners with this. You can't educate that fan base, can you? So it's just, I can't remember the exact words of the famous Ian Archer quote, but it was along the lines of, an occasional embarrassment and often a disgrace, or some such language. Somebody will correct me.
Well, when Tom English is giving them Loudy on Twitter, then you know that they've really transgressed, because it takes a lot for him to get, say something. Anyway, enough of that lot. Paul, back to the game. It was 44 minutes that they scored their goal, but right before that, we have probably. Well, actually, it's probably the one chance we haven't really talked. We haven't talked about.
We haven't talked about.
Yeah,
on
so
our side.
I'll talk about them and see if these are the ones you're thinking of. But obviously, we've got the breakaway with Adamida. He wins the ball back off Diamonde. Does really well. I mean, that's good forward play. That's like a Kyogo-esque, hassling the defender, taking the ball off him. So he does that, gets in a position to release the ball. Forrest has made the run. All he really needs to do is play it slightly to the right, away from the defender, and Forrest should sort of run onto his right foot. But he sort of played it sort of in between the defender and Forrest, and just allowed enough for the defender to make the recovery tackle. And Forrest has obviously not got that yard of pace that he maybe had a few seasons ago. So unfortunate, sort of a bit frustrated, because at that point that was our best chance. We've already mentioned the Carter Vickers header. Really did got up against Balogun and a really did well directed. Well, it wasn't well directed, but there's good power on it. Should have been, if it was either side of the goalkeeper, it's 1-0. And then the other chance, that was ready to say, is obviously right before they score, is Adamida's 1-on-1. I think he tries to sort of slide it past. I think he was in two minds, because he sort of dinked it up. So it was sort of like a really good height for Liam Kelly, who's come skidding out. So he sort of made himself big. It sort of hit Liam Kelly in the chest. So it's sort of like, is he trying to chip him? Probably, but it was kind of half-hearted. So it's one of those ones he was probably in a bit two minds about it. Too much time to think about it, which we've obviously said, we've discussed this often, where he's instinctive inside the box, but this is more of a Kyogo, or more recently a Daizen Maeda type chance, but it's fallen to him and he doesn't score. And then unfortunately, to compound the misery of not scoring that excellent chance, is that the ball somehow ends up right down the other end of the park, and they score. And it's interesting, because the Sports Sound last night, they were talking a lot about the comparison between Cyril Dessers and Adamida. They both sort of come under the same sort of criticism, because they came in for decent money, but they don't seem to be that instinctive sort of striker. But then they're both the two that ended up scoring a goal each in the derby. So I guess, where do you see all this fitting in? Because we may as well have a wider discussion about Adamida, because it obviously feeds into the second half when he does score. Because we were frustrated at half time, but we're also about 7 pints deep by that point. So have you changed your mind in the last 24 hours?
Well, yes and no. So he's a hugely frustrated. Like, let's take, much like I say with Arne Engels, let's take the price tag off the discussion, because you can't control what price tag you end up with. And as I've said this multiple times on this show and elsewhere, Celtic fans have got a funny mentality where we demand that we spend more money on players, and then but not on him, or not that much for that player. Like, so you've got to accept that the price of players goes up, you get less for your money, and not every single one of them will work out. But you've also got to have some patience, right? He's a young player. He hasn't played a huge amount of games in his career. He was exceptional in the half season we had him on loan. I think if we had arranged a pre-contract for a lower fee, no one would be giving him the same heat as he's currently getting. There'd be criticism of some of his play, which is fair, but he's averaging just under a goal every two games in terms of minutes to the pitch.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty good. Where the frustration lies is he's clearly an instinctive, doesn't have to think about it, in the box striker, but there's so much more to his game that he needs. And this is kind of it. He's not dissimilar to Giacomakis, but he's much younger and he probably has a higher ceiling. You stick, as I say all along, if you stick him between the posts inside the 18-yard box and you get the ball into him, he'll score you goals. His link-up play could be better, and it's been hit and miss over these recent games that he's played. Some of it's been good, some of it's been terrible. His passing is not as good as it could be.
I guess what Love It. There's a comment that Love It made. It's very similar to what you just said.
His passing's a bit off, and just generally, he's when he's outside of the box, his contribution isn't always what you would hope. But I think he's a penalty box striker, and if he's a penalty box striker, you need to get him in the penalty box as often as possible, and you need to get supply into him. In that first one, you're right. I think he did really well. I think he did really well to win the ball back. Then he's done the hard bit as far as I'm concerned. He's won the ball back, and he sort of risked a foul and got away with that one. And then he just needs to play a decent weighted, solid pass in front of James Forrest. And then he doesn't have too much more to think about than running onto it and giving it a smack and seeing what happens. And he just plays a sort of tentative, half.
The weighting's wrong.
The weighting's terrible. It's not hard enough. Forrest is having to come back onto it. He's breaking stride. It's just a poor pass. And then the other one, which is brilliant pass. We've complained a lot about forward passing from the centre backs. Carter Vickers plays a brilliant through pass up to Rio Hatate, deep, over the halfway line. Hatate then slides an amazing ball in behind, and he does running through, and you think, just finish it. And again, he's probably got a bit too much time to think about it. He's thinking, he's seen the keeper coming out. He's got a defender on his shoulder. He's thinking, do I try and slide it under him? Do I consider going round him? Am I going to try and clip it over him? And I think, yeah, you're right. He does. I think he gets caught in two minds. And then I think he's also losing his foot and he's sort of leaning back and almost slipping a little bit. And it's a poor finish. And then, yeah, from there, that keeper makes a save. It goes for a corner. Now, I think that they were still showing the replay, so we didn't quite see what happened with the corner. But I think we tried a shortish corner and it broke down inside the box. And then 3 or 4 passes, they're up the other end. We're obviously sort of funneling back, trying to defend, quick, get players back behind the ball. We're all out of shape. They only take 2 or 3 passes to sort of cut through us. But we have got bodies back. And, again, and I don't want to be hypercritical, but Liam Scales he's got Dessers under control. Like he's goal side.
He's got him where he wants him, really.
Yeah,
like, he just has to stand him up.
He's goal side of him. He just has to stand. And Liam Scales is very good in those one-on-one challenges when he doesn't go to ground. If he stands up and he looks to get a block in, he's usually solid. But again, with Liam Scales, sometimes one of his issues is decision making. And when he decides to go to ground, if it doesn't come off, like any defender, if you go to ground and it doesn't come off, you're absolutely in a world of trouble. And that's what's happened. He's tried to slide in on him, and Dessers has just had the presence of mind for once. Like, it's rare that he's got this kind of clarity and composure. He quite often, it's up in the bro's head. But yeah, he just holds him, takes an extra touch, and then after that, Sinisala's really struggling. Like he slid it under him, and it's a good finish. But you know, we've gone from a position where we should probably be going 1-0 up, or at least then threatening them again by, you know, we'd had success throwing the ball in the box and having Carter Vickers attack it, and Scales has been trying to get on stuff. And then we decide to try and do a short corner and it all breaks down and suddenly they're up the other end. I just think you want to keep the pressure on late in the half, and we've allowed them to counter us, and yeah, we've gone in 1 down. So yeah, a mixed bag from Adamida. We'll get on to goal second half. I think he's somebody. I don't think you're gonna go into next season planning for him to be your number one striker. I don't think we can afford to. There's still a fair amount of work with him, but I'm not prepared to write him off. He's a young player. You know, there's clearly the raw attributes to be a good striker. He's good in the air. He scores. He scores instinctive finish. Think of his goals at Villa. His goals against Villa were great. You know, the first one, he's getting his foot high over his hip and powerful finish. The second one, he's clipping in, running onto it. He scored a ton of goals. Like his goals pretty much got us over the line on the double last year. I don't think we win either of those trophies without his contribution. So I'm not writing him off, but it is being frustrating. But equally, if you're not playing every week and getting the minutes, you are going to be a bit rusty. You know, you're not going to get up to that speed just from the training pitch. So I have got some sympathy for him. Rodgers is a good coach. He gets, he takes players and he makes them better. So I think you've got to hope and assume that if the players got the right attitude, then potentially there's development to be had there. But I think obviously we should have. Well, that's exactly what I said. I think we're obviously going to have to go and sign a striker. We should have probably signed a striker when Kyogo went. It was a bit slack not to.
Well, this is the thing. So, I mean,
Dyson's contribution has saved us there, but that doesn't diminish the fact that we're a striker down in the squad.
Well, we're effectively a winger down, because if Maeda's playing through the middle, then you haven't got him out wide. And then now we've got an injury crisis. Now we're back to Ida and Kenny. You know what I mean? Like you're short a player in that front three wherever you want to sign them, but effectively that's the reality.
With the Jota injury, you need to, right?
Yeah, and like you say, Jota's been about for a while. Just to pick a couple points, Paul. Adamida, I think some of his critics come in for a wee bit because he kind of looks like he's got that look in his face like he doesn't really give a shit. Like he's just, it's not that he doesn't, but he gives off that vibe just with he almost a deer in the headlights, but he just looks a bit like, oh yeah, I'm here. Like I don't know whether that puts some people off thinking, oh, he's not trying or whatever. Like he's very emotionless. Even when he does interviews, like there doesn't really be much expression in his voice, or his tone of his voice doesn't really change. It's not to say that he's not excited or happy or whatever, but he's just one of those guys where it's just very.
He seems extremely laid back.
Extremely laid back. Like I've got a guy I work with, and like honest to God, I don't think I've ever seen him like actually look stressed or whatever. He just exudes the same thing all the time. And it's just, I mean, I wish I had a bit of that, but I don't.
He reminds me a bit of Dylan, the stoner rabbit from Magic Roundabout. Like he's got that kind of, real kind of chilled out, like nothing can worry me, man. Like kind of thing going on.
I think a little bit of the criticism is that because people think he's not bursting his arse, but I mean there was parts of that game where he was chasing the ball down and doing that, so that's not the issue. But I think we're expecting him to do Kyogo-like things, and he's not Kyogo, and we need to, like we've said this already, play his strengths. And I feel that when we did, he got his chances. I mean, the goal he scores, and we'll get to that in about 2 minutes. So I just want to make a couple of points first. But he makes that really out of nothing. Like it's really him turning and hitting the ball. And he had another chance to second half to do the same. Unfortunately, whacked it over the bar. But he does have it in his locker. If he's in that box, he's dangerous. And I think that's the thing. We've got to feed him in that 18-yard box, and he'll score your goals. And he has scored goals. I mean, that goal last night would have brought his average down under 100.
It's brought it under 120 minutes, and it's his 18th goal.
Yeah. So under 120 minutes now. Another thing, back to your original point, Paul, about not starting quickly. I mean, I don't know what Brendan Rodgers was expecting from Rangers, but it's the same old story. Midfield diamond, stifle our play, man mark our midfielders, and apply a press. And then because all their midfield are all bunched up in a diamond, they generally win the second ball because they'll get a tackle and the ball will break, and they'll generally pick it up because they're all clustered in that area. I knew that's how they set up because that's how they set up every time when they're ever in Europe or whenever they play us. So for me, it took us to halftime really to sort of say, well, Scales, Carter Vickers, you carry the ball a bit, draw in the Rangers player, and then it's like a pack of dominoes because once you suck one of the midfielders out, then all of a sudden either Hattati's free or McGregor's free, and once they spin on the ball, then we're out because you basically one pass and you've broken their press, and 4 or 5 of their players are out of position. But the frustration for me is it takes us to halftime to sort of realize that, because in the second half we start doing it and we get instant sort of results. And the one time we did it in the first half, as you pointed out, Paul, was the pass from Carter Vickers where he knocks the ball forwards, and that's what leads to the chance. And it's like, it's obvious what we had to do. It's just, like I said, it's just frustrating because it's like, why are we taking to half time to figure this out? Like, it's not any great surprise. And again, they were rubbish. Like when they did get the ball and they were in like some sort of position, they were basically playing for a free kick. Like Diamondi kept trying to fall over and win a free kick. Or, the real threat they've got is that the Cherny. I rate the guy. Like, he's on loan. He's not their player, but like he is dangerous, and he was absolutely raging when he got dragged as well. He was punching the dugout. So obviously, I don't know what's going on there, but he wasn't happy to come off. But I was happy to see him go off and go, well, for me, he's still their biggest threat. So it's a bit of a head scratcher for that one. I'm just sort of thinking, well, I can see that. I know that's how they're going to set up. It's how they always set up, but yet we didn't really. The only thing we sort of saw early, Paul, was Hattati dropping a little bit deeper, but just didn't really seem to counteract it. And our final pass was a letdown as well. I mean, not just Adam Ida. Everyone was sort of guilty at one point or another of just that final ball just being sort of not quite where it should be. And part of it's, lack of cattle, lack of personnel. Rouse instead of AJ, Forrest instead of Kuhn, no Jota. Just that little bit of dinky steel that we might just need in that final third just seemed to evade us. But anyway, second half. Yep.
Well, no, I think what I was going to say is the thing is there was pockets of play where we got joy, and then we never really tried it again. Like Engels spread an amazing crossfield pass over the top of Tavernier. Tavernier wanted the keeper to come for it. He was not interested in coming to the edge of the box. Dyson got in behind and got on the end of it, but then didn't really have much support. Just while I mentioned Engels, I thought he was very unlucky to get pulled, and we spoke about this, to get pulled off after 63 minutes. I thought he was the best of the 3 midfielders.
Well, interesting you say that, Paul, because there's a lot of debate on Twitter about this, and to that we've said it, and it was to the eye, I'm thinking he's everywhere, and I thought Hattati was a quiet one. But then somebody put a comment up saying that he lost the ball 10 times in the 60 minutes that he was on the park. Well, I can't remember that because obviously I had a few beers, but I kind of felt like he did pick the ball up in pockets of space and was at least trying to be positive. And again, when you try to be positive and play the ball forward, it's not always going to come off. But apparently, again, this is off social media, so could be right, could be wrong, but apparently Rodgers was remonstrating with Engels on the touchline for a fair amount of the first half, like telling him where he wants him to be and whatnot. And I just generally I thought we rushed it. Like I think we got sucked into their way of playing because they're kind of like they play rush football. They just try and get the ball up the park as quickly as possible and just see what happens. And there's no real pattern to the play. It's just all hustle and bustle. And I kind of feel like we fell into that trap in that first half of just doing the exact same thing. It's like, we're better than this. Hold on to the ball. Have a bit of possession. Push them side to side, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Take the sting out of the game a little bit. Quieten the crowd down. Just get control of the game like we do when we're playing Ross County or St. Johnstone or whoever. But we just seem to be in a need to try and play it quick. And I don't know. That was the other thing I just felt. It wasn't like our usual game. I don't know whether that was what Rodgers wanted us to do. And sometimes it's on, don't get me wrong. But I just kind of felt like we kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater a little bit. Just sort of say, well, just control the game. Like if we have the ball, they can't score, and then we can sort of pick and choose our chances, make them move around, make them work, draw some fouls, get some bookings. I mean, let's face it. I think Barry Fredrickson was the first person booked.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy. Anyway, we're running out of time, and I'm sort of going on a bit. So, 57 minutes, we get our equalizer. Paul, take it away. We cover that, and then we can talk about anything else that popped up.
I think starts with Greg Taylor. I think he plays a good ball in behind. Maieda's on it. As I say, one of the few times he got the better of that side of play. He does as he does, rips it around in behind, and then he tries to get the ball in. It's blocked, but then it deflects back off him and sort of into the box. And he does first one on it, sort of fastens onto it, good little spin inside, and then just cracks the shot. He hits it. It's a really good strike. Like he hits it really clean and powerful. And then so it's heading towards goal. And then John Suter sort of turns to block it a bit, and he's got his sort of arm and elbow slightly out from his body, flicks off the bottom of his forearm elbow, and sort of sends it back down. I think it was probably rising up towards a top corner kind of strike, which may have given the keeper a better opportunity to get to it. But in the end, obviously, the deflection changes. I don't think it really changes the direction in terms of where in the goal it was going towards, but it certainly sends it back down into the ground instead of higher up. And yeah, it flashes straight into the net, and that's that. There's very quickly a flag up for offside. Now, if we give Mr. Potter the benefit of the doubt, we might be suggesting that he thought Dyson Maeda was offside when the ball was played over the top. I think what he was actually flagging for was Dyson Maeda being stood apparently in the goalkeeper's line of sight, which he was in an offside position, but as VAR proved, he was well outside of the line of sight of goalkeeper. In fact, he was in line with a post, so in no way impeding the keeper's view of it. And after a lengthy VAR check, the goal was awarded as it should have been. But yeah, again, the probably final thoughts on Ida is this is among okay. He gets a bit of luck with the deflection, but he sort of earned it. He's on that. His reaction to go win the ball is great. He spins the defender well, and then his first thought is just to have a crack. He doesn't really look up. He just gets his head over the ball and he strikes it, and he hits it hard, and it's on target, and he gets a bit of luck that he probably deserves from
Oops. So you were stuttering there for a second. I don't know if it was just me, but you were sort of like you were on like a rave. It was like so I thought if I mute you and unmute you, that might have fixed it. Okay, it's all right now. It's fine. Sorry. Oh no. Yeah. Have we got you? While Paul's sorting out his microphone, I'll bring in a few comments. Love it here saying, correct, we need a bully boy. And I think that's where KT will hopefully help in that situation, as he won't get bullied in that fixture. And I think Cal McGray need a bit of help because he was definitely felt like he was a little bit, yeah. I'm on mode at the moment, so I'm hoping that Paul will be back in a minute. But that's all right. I'll talk amongst myself in the meantime. What we got here, and then Pete McGee just saying, how interesting we're with different views after watching the same game. I guess that's what makes football so enthralling. I guess that's what keeps us in podcasts as well, Pete. Otherwise, why would we do this if we all didn't have slightly different views on how the game went? But yeah, it's interesting because I thought Hatate had quite a quiet game, and then I see Pete McGee here saying that he thought Rio was the man of the match. So I definitely felt that he did come into it later, and that's what John Clements here is saying as well. So it is, it's interesting. Paul is back, I think. Are you back, mate?
So can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah. Are you just a wee bit louder, maybe? You can?
How's that?
Louder?
Now?
That's okay. We can live with that. Yep. Oh, I thought
Sorry
I was
about
going
that.
to see the. I thought I was going to see the last 10 minutes of myself there. But that's all right. All good. I'm just tearing through some of these comments while I was waiting for you to sort your system out. But yeah, I think I've covered everything that needs to be said there. Okay. Yeah, I think after that, they sort of hustle and bustle a bit, and I think Sinisalo has the one where he has the low block, and then McGregor sort of goes out the back of Hadji. He ends up coming off because he's twisted his knee again. So that boy's absolutely no luck, whether he's a Rangers player or not. He's just injury prone. So they have that sort of half chance ish, and then I never really felt like. I felt like if anyone was going to throw the winner, it was going to be us. Like I know I watched the highlights back today, and Rangers had a lot more forward possession than I actually recall. But it just never really felt like we were in any real imminent danger. And then obviously we really leave it to the absolute last kick of the ball. I think it was a Tati he finds Maeda wide. Maeda with his burst of pace. Kenny on the inside of him, two defenders and keeper coming out. He decides to try and go around the keeper on the outside. Unfortunately, Kelly gets a little bit of a touch that just allows Suter, whoever the defender was, to clear the lines. And that was literally the last kick of the game where maybe on another day he just rears it inside. And Kenny could have been a hero, but not to be. And to be fair, given the game, I think a 1-1 draw was probably fair, because you had one team that's won the league, one team that's got their club presentation night that same night, which I think is questionable, versus a team that are just a bit of not a pub team, but they're just sort of like a bunch of journeymen, and they just, they hustle and they bustle, and they can put a performance in when they feel like it, but they can't consistently do it. And here's the thing: they've beaten us twice in the league, they've drawn with us once in the league. We're still 17 points clear of them, with a far superior goal difference. I can't think of another time ever that's ever been a thing, but it could have been. I mean, it could have been 3 losses, but it was obviously 2 and a draw. But
it just shows the mentality in that club, in that dressing room's a shambles. Like you can't be stepping like it's like they've got 2 different teams. They've got the Thursday night team that plays well against Celtic as well, and then you've got the rest of the time where apparently they can't get themselves up to play anyone else. So mentality is shocking. If you're in the management team or any of the management teams over the last few years, this has been a consistent theme. Get themselves up for games that are apparently big games and can't beat the run of the mill fodder. And if you're any of the management teams or a fan of that club, you would be absolutely pulling your hair out, because it's pretty shambolic. They can clearly put half decent performances together. Don't get me wrong; it's still pretty ugly football, but they can play functional football that gets results when it suits them. But they can't get themselves up for a fight in games that they should win. So the less said about them, the better. They showed their true colours again, and yeah, disappointing that we should win. The only thing I wanted to raise is, and Maeda should square it, and then we probably win the game right at the death. Is there seems to be very little made, and I know we were a few pints deep, but there seemed to be very little made of the penalty incident on Greg Taylor in the first half. He clearly gets his shoulder and his arm pulled once he's inside the box, and he's making a run where the man on the ball would be looking to slide him in if he's still on his feet. He isn't on his feet anymore because he's clearly been fouled. Now, if that happens anywhere else on the pitch, it's 100% a free kick. So I don't know. I'm just like, yeah, maybe it would be contentious, but surely that's what the VAR's for, right? Like, if there's a
Not
foul,
for me, Paul. Sorry, I had to look back at it today. I just thought there's nothing. I think Greg Taylor was looking for it a wee bit, and yes, there's an arm, but I would be livid if that was given against us. So in a fixture like that, you're never going to get a penalty like that. I'm sorry, but I take the point, and but then you sort of straight into like VAR, re-refereeing the game because is it clear and obvious? Yeah, no, not for me. But I take your point, and I think Barry Ferguson was rabbiting on about how he felt he was hard done by the referee. But I tell you what, Nick Walsh, he ran a good covering exercise for Rangers, especially that last 20 minutes, because we were up and about. We were trying to pinch the ball, and every time we put a tackle in, it was a free kick. And I was like, that is not a free kick, and it just killed our momentum. And every time we sort of tried to do a quick breakaway, he blew up, and he did it 3 or 4 times. Very noticeable near the end of the game when they were all huffing and puffing, and we were the team that looked like we were just score the winner. So he did a good little rear guard action for them. But again, the yellow cards. I think Greg Taylor should have a yellow card in the first half. That was he put a pretty hefty challenge in, got away with it. Again, Diamondi got away with a few. Just like letting things go, and then near the end it's I better start booking a few players. I do have my yellow card in my back pocket, sort of thing. But yeah, he was all right, but I kind of felt as the game dragged on, it got worse for us. But that was my
I as far as referees in Scotland go, I rate Nick Walsh, but I thought he had a poor game.
Anyway. And I think the other point to make was that the Celtic fans singing Simply the Best when Celtic came out onto the park, I thought was good crack. And that's the sort of stuff that you like to see. And that doesn't hurt anybody. And that's having a laugh at the expense of your opposition. And yes, Maesh, that's 7 games that they haven't won at Ibrox. And Barry Ferguson still thinks he's doing a weird job. Anyway, enough about them. Paul, we may as well do man of the match because time is running out. We've done well to sort of get back on track because I thought at one point it was drawn off the rails and we were going to be in for an hour and a half show, but we've managed to pull our heads in and get it back on time, which is good. So I'll go first this week. So you were pondering it, but I had it picked from last night. Sinisalo for me. I thought he was excellent. I think for a 1-1 draw. First time playing them there, I thought he held his head up high and he did everything he could. I don't think he could have done much with the goal. It was a good finish. But everything else he was asked to do. And for me, no brainer. Man of the match. Who was your man of the match?
So I'll do a couple of near misses. I thought he came onto a game. Yeah, Rayo would have been near for me. Thought he was the best of the midfielders in the end, and obviously played the full 90. The other name I wanted to mention was CCV. I thought he was back to his best. I've been critical of his distribution in recent weeks. Seemed to be too reliant on just letting Kalmak pick it up off his toes. But as I said, his passing was much better. He looked much more assured. Both kind of managing players, attacking players on the deck, but also in the air. He's not the tallest, and I thought he defended the box well, and he nearly got a goal at the other end. But I do agree with you. I thought I had a cracker performance all round, and if you look at some, probably 3 really good saves. Which on another day, if we don't save those, we probably lose the match. So yeah, I will agree with you and say Sinisalo is my man of the match.
Manchester United 5 does a strong Rangers make a stronger Celtic, resting for them. Look, I think Rodgers is very clear to point out that we set our own standards and our own targets, and we're not interested in what they are doing. And I think as part of this feeds into Brendan Rodgers didn't win Manager of the Year, although he's in line for a treble, and that's a victim of his own success because he's had an invincible treble before. We're streets ahead of everyone else in our league. Is that our fault? No, but it's a victim of right. Rangers are a rabble. Aberdeen, Hibs could only string half a season together each. That's not our fault. Like we set our own standards, set our own targets, but I feel that we are judged because, oh, well, Rangers aren't very good, so therefore that Celtic team can't be very good. It's like, well, no. We did our business early in the season. We've been double digits lead for pretty much most of the season. It's been as comfortable as you possibly can make it. And yeah, I think that's part of the issue. And yeah, well, Brendan Rodgers will be behind closed doors probably saying to the board, well, if Rangers get an investment, I want investment. He's not going to say that publicly, not like that, obviously. And then secondly, if Rodgers only has one more season at Celtic, how much are they going to back him in the summer? Because ultimately, if you've got to bring a new manager in the year after, he's going to inherit all Rodgers' players. That's something more for the summer. And I'm sort of off topic. And yeah, but Sinisalo, very good. And yeah, deserving of our Man of the Match award. Paul, any musical recommendations or TV, anything? What you got?
Yeah. So I've got a few albums backed up, but we've got 2 or 3 more weeks this season, so there'll be a few to chat about before then.
Keep your powder dry.
I will, but this week's album review or recommendation is Bon Iver, his 5th studio album called Sable Fable. If you're across Bon Iver, it's very much in his kind of typical wheelhouse, but if you like that kind of chilled out stuff, then yeah, give it a listen. Bon Iver, Sable Fable came out a couple of weeks ago, I think. So yeah, get it from wherever you get your streaming or go and buy the vinyl.
I went to the movies. So after barbecue on Friday, I went to the movies. First time in ages. I'm trying to remember the last movie I went and saw. So I went and watched Thunderbolts. Asterisk. Yeah, enjoyable. I said to you, Paul, I think it's probably the best Marvel movie since Endgame. So if you're in two minds, go see it. It does feed directly into all the Avengers movies next year. So yeah, so like I said, good. Florence Pugh, Elaine from Seinfeld, Julia
Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah, I don't remember her name. Elaine. She was good. The whole cast was solid. A solid cast, very ensemble. Sebastian Stan. Yeah, it was really easy, good humor. So yeah, worth checking it out if you are into your Marvel movies. I didn't really say this during this show, but please like the episode. It helps other like-minded Celts find us online. We'll be back next week. We're on the countdown. A few more games to go. Who have we got? I don't know who we've got. Hibs at home. Home game. 10 o'clock kickoff on the 10th. We'll be watching that and we'll be bringing it to you live next Monday. Not live, well, we'll be live. Dave sends his apologies. He's tending bar tonight, so hopefully he'll be back on next week. Marvel movies grow up. Jeez, can't all be serious all the time. And yes, and Daz Almeida, congratulations, Player of the Year in Scotland, Player of the Year for us. Arnie Engels, Young Player of the Year for Celtic. That's all I saw online, and there was a Celtic women's player. She won league Player of the Year for the league as well. I can't remember her name, which is terrible. I feel bad, but yeah, we did the double there. So happy days. Anyway. That's enough from us. We'll be back next week to talk about Celtic versus Hibs, and we will see you then. So all that's left to say is hail, hail.
Hail, hail.